me. I
I
Slavoj.
keep that shit on me.
Yeah, Slavoj just has a tendency to piss people off, and like, goddamn, my dude. Absolutely zero need. There is zero need to be that much of a fucking cuck about this shit, and yet Zizek's like, I agree with you. The left must be cucked, wholly and completely. Let me see the balls. Why? Why? Why would you do what you did? Like, I don't. This is Dan Cohen refusing to understand Slavoj Zizek's decision making right now. That's what this whole show is. Just not fucking grasping it. There's a lot of things about him that I can just grasp. By the way, this is the Sons of Tree Air. Tonight is Mr. Zizek's Opus. I'm joined by Reposado. I'm joined by Jank Engels, and I'm joined last but certainly never least, Juniper Nest. Say hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, hello, everybody.
There you go. Good.
Hey,
Thank you, Reposado, for owning your humanity and not just blindly obeying orders. Good for you.
I am a dog.
You are one of the canine men like Zizek loves to cuck himself for. So
I'm growing more powerful by the day.
good for you. You should. You should just make your humanity absolutely about insulting Marxists and I don't know.
Can it be profitable for me?
Yes,
Ooh,
110% profitable.
you're turning me on to the idea.
Yeah, that's how everybody else gets rich. Why shouldn't you? It's just a matter of cucking yourself and being an embarrassment. It's fine.
Well, I'm already half of that, so
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I'll leave it to the audience to determine which half I am already.
It's the cuck. Which is the hottest part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Yeah. Don't be fooled. It's the cuck, and it is the hottest part of Jank Engels and his illustrious career in his cuckery. So, yeah. Otherwise, how are we doing? We haven't all convened in a week. We can all cover that first while I bring up this article and try to just simmer my slow boiling rage.
How am I? I would venture to say that I am mindfully well.
Good for you.
If
If there was a show espousing that ideology, when could one participate in that show?
Well, Lord willing and the creek don't rise and Twitter don't completely crash. We are on Twitter Spaces at 10:30 Eastern Wednesdays.
Interesting. Let's
I'm just saying.
let's just say, for the sake of argument, it does rise. If you need help transmuting this idea into a different format, here's a guy who's jumped from 9 different formats, who knows a thing or two about abandoning a project well into its lifespan.
Yes, I'm listening.
Well, that's it. That's the tweet.
enough. You cannot do.
Yeah. What do you think's going to happen after that? What do you think I'm going to say after that?
I thought you were going to introduce somebody.
I did. I introduced you guys.
How much more do you want?
The other people can get an introduction if they bother to show up to work. They don't get an introduction for doing nothing.
Okay, I'm sorry. I wasn't keeping count of where we were.
Well, I do.
Okay.
I have the beans, and I count the beans. For the love of God, this is so. Let's deal with it, right? Let's deal with the thing in the room. On July 4th, Mr. Slavoj Zizek printed an article, had submitted an article to the New Statesman under their European category. The link is in the description for the episode here, that the left must embrace law and order. In France and everywhere else, everyday insecurity hurts the poor much more than the rich. Which is, in and of itself, a big warning sign, because it is a liberal talking point to suppress any kind of public disorder on the premise of, well, you got to think of the poors. You got to think of the poors because the poors are the ones who suffer from this, do you see? Okay, that's an excruciatingly liberal talking point. So to start with that premise is suspect. All right. And it begins. Two events have gripped public attention during this increasingly febrile summer: the failed military mutiny in Russia and the violent protests in France. Although the media has covered both in detail, a feature they share has passed unnoticed. Okay. Looting and arson attacks spread through France after police shot dead 17-year-old Nihil in the Nanterre suburb of Paris on the 27th of June. In cities across the country, rioters erected barricades, lit fires, etc. Events. You can read the full article. I am leaving out, like, okay, we get it. And the cops fought back. Fine, right? There's a conflict between the police and the rioters. Events took an even more ominous turn when the police began acting as autonomous agents. I am paraphrasing a little, so forgive me. Threatening to revolt unless Emmanuel Macron resolved the crisis. The police released a statement that was nothing less than a crack in the edifice of state power, says Zizek. Reacting to the riots, hardliners and the police threatened to act against their own state. All right, so that's just baseline reporting. Nothing. I don't think if anybody has taken from those 3 paragraphs like something to take issue with, you need to touch grass and get help. Obviously, we are all here for what is coming next, right? I don't think there's anything all that exciting in those 3 paragraphs, but I want to respond line by line, right?
Mm-hmm.
He continues. The predictable leftist narratives that the police is racially biased, French egalitarianism is a fiction, young immigrants rebel because they have no future, and the way to solve this crisis is not more police oppression, but a radical transformation of French society. It's predictable because it's right. That's my first point. Gonna move on. Anger has been building for years, and Nihil's killing was the last detonation that brought itself into the open. Violent protests are a reaction to a problem, not the problem itself. This is true. And as Zizek will agree, there's some truth to this narrative. When the protests broke out in 2005, after 2 teenagers were electrocuted while being pursued by the police, which is a weird thing to happen.
Yeah.
So it was an officer-involved electrocution.
Yes.
It is so weird how deadly shit tends to happen around people who are involved with those officers.
It's very weird that those 2 things line up. That what line up is violence and death line up with the pursuit of the police.
Must be it. It's a hell of a coincidence.
It's a hell of a coincidence. Which again, Zizek says there is some truth to that narrative. And he says, he continues with that line of thinking, while they were, these teenagers were killed while being pursued by police, specifically by electrocution, which again is a very odd way to die. And he says the matrices of prejudices and exclusions that define the lives of immigrant youth in France was revealed. I don't like the term revealed here as if it was somehow hidden very well. It is a running joke at how racist the French actually
are. For liberals, I guess it would be hidden.
I suppose
right.
if you're professionally blind to a problem, only something super gruesome can make you realize it's there or have to acknowledge the problem, right?
Yeah.
Precisely.
I'll grant him. Yet overhauling society to solve the historic problems of identity, economic exclusion, and colonial injustice is a problematic solution. It assumes a progressive outcome when none seems forthcoming. Well, I concur. If you don't have a left, if you lack a left, if you lack a functioning left, a genuine left, i.e. a communist party or an anarchist party, ideally both, acts of violence or revolution are almost impossible because the parties that would do a pure revolution are not present.
What do you mean? Marie Le Pen is more than happy to install herself as dictator.
Yes.
How much more do you want?
Keep in mind, too, Macron's pitch was, I will make sure Marie Le Pen isn't president. We heard that here with Hillary Clinton. It worked for Macron. It didn't work for Hillary Clinton. And what I'm going to posit is that what you would see in America, right? What you would see in America is very, very similar to what you see in France. I don't think there would be much of a tangible difference, nothing visible, right? So Zizek continues. The protesters' targeting of local buses, for example, so crucial in transporting workers from the low-income suburbs at the edge of Paris, indicates two things. The riots have wrecked the infrastructure that sustains the livelihoods of ordinary people, and the victims of the destruction are the poor, not the rich. Okay.
I
There
mean, the
is
victims of everything always do tend to be the poor and not the rich.
that's
So,
true.
like, in other news, water's still wet? Question mark.
What that is true. The reason you target there is a reasoning to target those things. Because the poor also are in a state of passivity and permission to the wealthy, um, there is a thought process that kind of reveals itself whether or not it is actually like articulated by a party. But if you force this problem onto them, they are also going to have to deal with it because those poor are, compared to the refugees, far more enfranchised, even though their enfranchisement is low. Take why you feel comfortable calling a poor white racist still a racist, but you feel some degree of sympathy if you like find out that he's like actually having food insecurity and starving. Not enough to be like, well, the racism is excusable, but enough that you recognize there is a material problem, a substantive material problem that, say, Richard Spencer is not suffering, right? Or Jeremy Hambley, that fat tubbo that John used to love to talk about ad nauseum, or like a Tim Pool, just a dullard, like an absolute dullard bigot like Tim Pool is not suffering food insecurity. So you feel a little, you feel some pangs of empathy in that direction. Okay. So the idea is that you can play that like, here's the problem. You should be involved as well, and this is the means by to force you into that out of your complacency. Whether or not it works is subjective across societies and material conditions, but that is the underlying logic as to why you do that. Also, if you have, like, I'll point this out too, just like in my idea, like my hypothetical poor white racist. If that guy is walking around telling you to go home to Africa, N-word, right? It becomes very easy to damage his property because of proximity. That's what it boils down to as well. So there's some interplay between those two dynamics. This guy always calls me the N-word anyway. His police shot shot this boy, right? And that reveals a third thing about the situation. The refugees feel like an encaptured population. And the French feel like they agree with that point, right? The French actual société, the actual caste structure of France has them as subhuman entities within France. And both parties agree on that arrangement.
Hmm.
Sorry
I'm
about
trying
that.
to finish
Yeah, I
thought.
mean,
No, it's fine
sucks.
because
Everything sucks.
Yes.
this kind of goes against, like, if he's gonna frame it differently, huh? Because
He's
this is something like he's mentioned before. Like
he
that's why
has.
protest happens, right? Because there's like some sort of pain that you can't properly express, caused by all the structural violence that's being imposed on you.
Yeah, it reveals that there is an underlying problem where the normal political channels are designed to suppress that problem and make it not a problem for the enfranchised individuals, um, especially based on their proximity of enfranchisement. Right? If you consider the bourgeoisie the most enfranchised, I think that's a not the
Mm-hmm.
hottest take for any of us.
Hmm.
That proximity to enfranchisement, as you radiate outwards down to even the bottom of society, they're still more enfranchised than this essentially captured population. It's a reverse capturing process, but it very much mimics a capturing process, right? Because what happens to refugees? They're interred in camps, and then they are sorted out as individuals. It's not, you take the mix of the good and the bad and you make them subjects of your law, subjects of your taxes, and then give them the benefits of those rights. You go through and cherry pick those human beings, not unlike the old slave options. You have fancier mechanisms, less brutal mechanisms to do it in most instances, but you are still simply sorting people. You are, there's nothing that Joseph Mengele didn't do, that a slave owner didn't do, that is being conducted in refugee camps. That is how we solve the refugee quote unquote crises. We camp people, we encamp them, and then we take these immigrating populations, and we sort them on their humanity. And the ones who are violent, we either reject and leave in the camps, or we eject them from the camps and send them back. We deport, right? Because we've sorted out these humans into categories that we have deigned to be acceptable. Never mind that some violence is contextual, some isn't, right? A guy who's just like, I like to murder and rape, obviously there is no context to his murder and rape other than his own desires to do so. But somebody who commits a murder in a war, which is all war is, it's a series of murders, escalating murders technologically, but murders nonetheless. That is in and of itself, in the American context, that's justification to give that person a firearm and let them walk around in public, right? If they've killed somebody in a war, people tend to think, for some reason, that is prima facie evidence that they should be able to walk around in public with a firearm because they're the safest person possible. Comically enough, because they've ended human life with the firearm. But it's believed that they can judiciously end human life, that they have an intuitive justice as a function of participation in war to do so. So a soldier who's committed acts of violence in a refugee camp may be deported or permanently refugeized, I suppose is the word I want to use. In refuged, I don't know. But that individual has made no more or less a calculation than any other soldier who is killed in the act of war, who is murdered in the act of war, right? Who has committed murder. But that's what we do, and France is no different. There is no country that is viewed as a place to take refugees that does not make those same calculations. That is a fact of nation states. That is how they sort those people. So moving on. Public protests and uprisings can play a positive role if they are sustained by an emancipatory vision, I concur, such as the 2013-14 Maidan uprising in Ukraine and the ongoing Iranian protests triggered by Kurdish women who have refused to wear the burqa and have also suffered police violence. Let's mark that, right? Their protests are also sustained on the premise of police authority and brutality, which is mirrored in the West. You know, the West likes to think itself above the Iranian Islamic terror because it's secular Western terror, so it's clearly superior. The word secular was involved. Even the threat of violent action is sometimes necessary for political resolution, and he cites the African National Congress and the U.S. civil rights protests led by Martin Luther King, which were backed respectively by a radical wing of the ANC in the South African case, and more militant black Americans in Martin Luther King Jr.'s civil rights case in America. The negotiations over ending apartheid in South Africa and abolishing racial segregation in the U.S. succeeded because of these threats, which, surprise, surprise, you have to have some sort of underpinning law, some sort of underpinning ethos that is worth committing violence over in order to achieve change, even if the change does not arrive directly from the result of violence. Surprising nobody on this podcast. Yet this is not the situation in France today, Zizek continues, where violent rebellion is unlikely to end with any kind of progressive settlement for the wretched of the earth. Also true. If law and order are not promptly restored, the final outcome may well be the election of Marine Le Pen, the leader of the Nazi party in France, as the new president, with him noting that Norway, Italy, and Sweden have all fallen to anti-immigrant Nazis. Why not France? Macron has presented himself as a technocrat with no firm political stance, also true, but a position that was once seen as a strength now looks like a fatal weakness. Just a quick point, the actual left in France never saw Macron's lack of a firm political stance as a benefit. Leftists tend not to agree with the assessment that was ever a strength. Idiots, cheap, agree that is a strength. No firm political stance. The idea of the enlightened ruler willing to listen to all, who has no firm political stance, no ideology, no governing vision, right? Whereas Marine Le Pen's popularity is derived precisely because of her ideological alignment and her vision, and indeed that is mirrored on the non-idiot side of existence. I have to be crude here because like a CEO has a very firm vision about their firm. CEOs that don't succeed. They portend themselves to be these enlightened rulers like Macron does. But at the end of the day, even a CEO has a very, very, very directed vision that's ideologically guided, and the decision making is through that lens to achieve those ends. It is morons who think that it is a benefit. It always has been and it always will be who thinks that an empty vessel is a superior leader. Because you can fill it with anything, moron. You can even fill it with Nazis. It reminds me of that Family Guy episode, where Peter wins the boat and then he's offered the mystery box and Lois says, "Take the boat, stupid." And he's like, "But the mystery box could be anything. It could even be a boat,
Mhm.
Macron could be anything. He could even be a leftist." Well, no, he can't. He's an empty vessel for capitalism. And unfortunately, the hard right is more popular than naked capitalism. That's a reality. In the absence of a popularized left, which has been time immemorial has existed, except for uniquely like America doesn't have a left, right? But the only reason it doesn't have a left is because it was directly attacked and destroyed actively by the right with the permission of the capitalists. The empty vessels of capitalism, who are just naked profit whores, are not likable. It's weird. So again, on that point, that has never been a strength. That is what delusional people believe is a strength. Now, he swishes to Russia. In Russia, it was difficult to miss the comic nature of Prigozhin's march on Moscow. I can't pronounce his name, and I don't care. He's a fucking Nazi too.
Yevgeny?
Yevgeny, yeah, Yevgeny with Prigozhin or whatever.
Prigozhin.
Is it Prigozhin?
I don't know.
I don't care. I don't care to respect the man. It was over in 36 hours, he notes, after the Kremlin offered him a deal to leave the country and move to Belarus and end the attempted attack coup, right? Was this meant as a political... Yeah, and then Zizek questions, was it meant as a political gesture, an empty threat, or was it like an actual coup? We don't know. It's hard to say. But it could have also just been a brute force business negotiation, as Zizek posits, and other people have posited, to prevent Wagner from being taken control of by the army, because they are the only thing going right in the Russian army right now. Besides that and occupying all that territory and bombing, may not be exactly the outcome they wanted, but if you're able to go into somebody else's country and blow it up, your military's done something correct, at least as traditional militaries are concerned.
So you're saying that the laborers are the ones, I mean, even if the labor is war crime, they're the ones that actually get things done, not some imaginary ideal of who's in charge.
Right. The ideal of who's in charge holds the political state together, but in any kind of war, it's always the bulk of human labor that achieves the ends. Always has been, always will be. I'm not wrong on that. Simply put, there's no charismatic enough a leader to defeat the raw, naked strength of another army. Charisma doesn't win wars, violence does. It's that simple. It's labor, just production. Surprise! Again, surprising nobody. So, he continues. I'm skipping over the next part. He continues. The events in France and Russia are part of a trend in Europe towards instability, crisis, and disorder. True. Okay, there's his mirror. Today, failed states are not only in the global south, but also in the global north. If we measure a failed state by the crack up of state power, as well as the heightened atmosphere of ideological civil war, deadlocked assemblies, and the growing insecurity of public spaces, Russia, France, the UK, the US should be understood in similar terms. That is correct. The global north is cracking because it lacks a functioning order. Notably not the same way in what we would call the East, the global East, right? The global Northeast, if you will, China, Japan, Taiwan even, right, under the threat of Chinese invasion. Woo! Singapore, all those places are functioning relatively fine. Well, I think it was was it Malaysia? Or no, it was Sri Lanka where they had a mirroring of the U.S. situation, right?
Yeah.
Brazil, Sri Lanka.
I think it's Malaysia.
You sure? I thought it was Sri Lanka. Parliament.
Stretching the geopolitics, but
Yeah, it was. It was like
It was Sri Lanka 4 years ago, right?
Yeah, they even managed to kill a minister, one of the representatives. It would be like if they actually got to, well, not Mike Pence, but one of the other ones they viewed as a traitor. If the Jan 6 writers had gotten to one of them. Same situation. It's Sri Lanka. So you see mirrorings of this all over the world as the old neoliberal order is cracking to some degree, right? He mentions about Texas acting in a separatist manner, right? Um, and he goes on, the first measure declaring that Biden's election was invalid is a clear move towards a cold civil war in the U.S., the delegitimization of political order. Here, he's wrong only because, like, the U.S. isn't his focus. He has a world focus. So for like, if you view that as the first time the U.S. government was delegitimized, buddy, I got a long list of things I can tell you about. So there he is wrong by proxy. The Biden event is a long trend of not my president, illegitimate president, put him in jail, they stole the election, blah, blah, blah. We've been doing that since at least Hillary Clinton's. As far as he stole the election, Hillary Clinton's loss to Barack Obama was portrayed as a stolen election from Hillary Clinton. And as far as not my president is concerned, fuck me. FDR? Lincoln? I mean, Lincoln, they literally had a hot civil war over, so I feel like it was there.
Dewey defeats Truman.
Dewey defeats Truman is a good one. You know, that was the media trying to coup Truman, which I wish Dewey had beaten him. I wish he had, honestly. I don't know anything about Dewey, but I know what Truman did, and that's enough. A deadlocked Congress would have been superior to Truman being president ever. That's a different time, though. In France, he goes on, coming civil war is the kind of the soup du jour of the hard right. He uses the de rigueur of the hard right, the default. Even calling as an ethnic war, which if you live in America, if you live in the UK, if you live in Germany, for fuck's sake, this is rhetoric we've lived under. Mexico is the same way. Canada's the same way. We've all lived under this our entire lives. This is nothing new from the right. They've never been disciplined for it. And I use the word discipline because society has never punished them for talking like that, right? They've never lost over that. They have been slowly but surely, again, at least since the 1960s, and the liberalization via Kennedy and Johnson, this has been the rhetoric. I would pin it to post-war, post-World War II. I think we've never gone out of the post-war period myself, but that's again another thing. So now this is where Zizek posits his assumption that his slogan of law and order, right? And he says, in this general situation, the left must assume the slogan of law and order as its own. One of the most depressing facts in recent history is that the only case of violent revolutionary crowd invading the seat of power was on January 6th. Yes. Yeah. It was on 6th January of 2021 when Donald Trump supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. They viewed the election as illegitimate, a theft organized by corporate elites. Left liberals reacted with a mix of fascination and horror. Zizek posits. Oh, let me finish this point and then we'll discuss. Yeah. Some of my friends cried, we should be doing something like this. There was both envy and condemnation as they watched ordinary people breaking into the pinnacle of state sovereignty, creating a carnival that momentarily suspended the rules of public life. You have the floor, sir.
Well, the part that they view the election as illegitimate, theft organized by corporate elites. Well, that's what they say, right? Like right-wing rhetoric always disguises itself with the veneer of left-wing rhetoric.
Always.
Because it's positing, like, oh, there's corporate elites controlling the government, which is, in a sense, is true.
Yes, it's
their government. The aim's off. Always.
Yeah. Oh, God, you mean the people who own the government, control the government? Brrr! Be still, my beating heart. Yes, of course. It's weird. The thing is, though, they posit it as if they're somehow outsiders, but it's that permanent state of victimization. If you want me to be very cold, in Europe, the Nazis have been permanent victims, so their hard right is permanent victims because they lost World War II. Again, this is the eternal post-war period. And they've never been disciplined for it. They've never been get the fuck over it, right? In America, Reconstruction was a set of punishments and enfranchisements towards the respective parties of the plantation owners and their former slaves, which was ended. And since that was ended without fully realizing that project of completely and utterly annihilating that and regulating it to the dustbin of history, ever since that moment, the right in America has had the victim mentality. Okay, so it predates. This was something that the Nazis absorbed from them and have now perpetuated perfectly at the behest of the U.S. government. This idea of the right wing as the victim of capitalism. Go fuck yourselves. You literally suck at the teat, and I'm tired of pretending you don't. Of course, we've never
But the gay
pretended that with other
cartoons,
people.
Dan. What
Yeah.
about the gay cartoons?
What about the gay cartoons? That's it. That dog got my ass victimized by having to look at art you didn't even have to look at.
Listen, you just don't understand. They've taken away the sexy M&Ms.
That's my fault. That when the sexy M&Ms went, you couldn't masturbate to Mars bars. We lost something that day. We lost something fundamental that day. No, but okay. So continuing, right?
Wait,
Continuing
but
on this. Oh, go ahead.
hold on though. I just want to try to ask about this. I'm not allowed to just like trample on other people because I might hold a sincerely held belief that like they suck and should die.
We'll get back to that on another episode. Okay, so again, right? If the other thing is the violent revolutionary tendency or something like this, right? Who was Donald Trump in 2021 on January 6th? Who was he? What was his job? Does anybody remember? Anybody remember what work he was doing at that time, perchance?
Oh man, I know they mentioned him a lot. Oh,
This is an idea that bothers me very deeply.
selling steaks.
Yeah, was he selling steaks or was he the fucking leader of the country? We have to stop.
Yes.
We have to stop. This is for some reason everybody loves this narrative that he was this invading external force. The problem lies in not recognizing that Donald Trump was the fucking president of the United States. He was the hegemon, for fuck's sake. He was the order. He was the thing. He was the thing he was mad at. Why on earth we keep doing this goddamn thing where we're like, oh well, Trump's people were revolting, or Trump's people, yeah, they are revolting in a lot of cases, but not in the same sense of the word, but or that they were somehow this external occupying force. Motherfucker, he was president. They were president and they were his fucking partisans of one of the two major political parties, might I add. These were not external actors. These were goddamn sitting members of the fucking Congress itself, of the government, who were conspiring with him. That's not a goddamn coup. That is a purge. He was in charge. The more we pretend that he was like somehow like this external actor seizing power, he fucking had access to nuclear weapons. There literally isn't any greater power in a modern society. There isn't. Why do we keep doing this? I cannot, for the life of me, wrap my fucking head around it. It bothers me in like such a deep, visceral way. We just keep pretending that he wasn't the fucking president. Stop doing that. That's like that's a base one material fact. The president can't coup himself. It's like rhetorically stupid. These are like way more intelligent people than I. What presumption? Like why? There's this weird fucking cerebral dissonance that ignores the fact that the bourgeoisie are in charge of the country and Donald Trump was the fucking vulgar form of the bourgeois, and that he was the fucking boss of the country, there to fire Congress whenever he was pissed off and his fucking man pussy was bleeding, or whatever the fuck stupid thing Republicans thought was going to happen. That he was going to fire the Democrats. Whatever the fuck that means. Again, these are childish thoughts. That somehow Trump was not the sitting sovereign, and that he looked at his government and thought, no, I don't want to lose it. I agree with you that America has a machinery to take that away from a president. I agree with you on that. But to pretend on January 6th he wasn't the fucking president? Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, stop saying that. It was a goddamn fucking purge. It's the idea that we have to fucking defend the fucking theory of liberal democracy as if it's somehow democratic. As if it actually is a functioning democracy. When they talk about a fucking failed state, we've been in a failed state since the Republicans stole the fucking election in 2000. We've been in a permanent failed state, an authoritarian failed state. We have a veneer of democracy like Saddam Hussein had, like Vladimir Putin had, all these other authoritarians. But we are not in a situation where Donald Trump was not the fucking president on the day that happened. We live in reality. God damn you people. Stop. Stop doing this thing. Zizek, you are fucking smarter than this. You know what a goddamn purge is. You were a member of the fucking actual Communist Party in fucking actual the Soviet fucking Union. How in the fuck do you not know what a purge is? Motherfucker, do not lie to me right now. Of all the people, like this actually bothers me on a very visceral level. I expect liberals to pretend that somehow Trump was a foreign agent because they need to for their psyche. But you are not a fucking American Democrat living in a goddamn suburb who says racist shit about their black fucking neighbors and then pretends that the black guy who gets their coffee because they're in a subordinate caste and class is cool and down with you, homie. You are motherfucking Slavoj Žižek. Talk like a you talk like a fucking talk like a goddamn man. You are smarter than that. Do not play that game. That actually deeply pisses me off, and I'm sorry. I will continue back to it.
Anyways, liberals.
Yes. Liberalism. So by launching a popular attack on the seat of power, has the populist right stolen the left's resistance to the prevailing system? Is our only choice now between parliamentary elections controlled by corrupted elites or uprisings controlled by the hard right? You know, a rhetorical question. He also posits that Bannon has positioned himself to be Vladimir Lenin. Don't give me a fucking break on that. And if I see any goddamn anarchists thinking they're fucking cute and being like, "Oh, he's right," go fuck yourselves too. Go fuck yourselves. I'm tired of pretending you're not hypocrites. You goddamn libs. Knock it off. You either get in line with the rest of the goddamn left and call Bannon what he is, a fucking drunk piece of racist shit and a bourgeoisie cunt, or suck my fucking dick. While the populist right was ecstatic about the January 6th, the liberal left acted like good old conservatives asking for the National Guard to crush the rebellion. Well, because at that point, that was the only option for them to keep their fucking fantasy going, wasn't it?
So on the second question in this paragraph, if our only choice now is between parliamentary elections controlled by the corporate elites or uprisings controlled by the hard right, why not both?
Which is exactly what we're doing, right? Well, Zizek posits it rhetorically, meaning he's fully aware that that's what's going on. At the roots of this weird situation, we find a unique combination of anarchy and savage authoritarianism. Not anarchy. It's just savage authoritarianism. It's not anarchy. It's not. It's not. It's not chaos. The machine is operating fine. It is not in a state of nature and natural reaction. It is not anarchic. It is not political anarchy. It is merely savage authoritarianism, complete with the purges that are features of it. If you understand it this way, of course it seems like a weird fucking combo. Of course. Of course it does. This is the machine acting as it fucking is intended to act. I will posit the first challenge, the first proper challenge there. Everything is running according to the way the machine planned it. People are surprised because in this country, when you say you're going to do something, you're lying. So they're surprised the machine works as intended. When a tech executive sells you a product, you know it doesn't do what he says it's going to do, but it's going to do something. Well, surprise, surprise, motherfucker. Machines are supposed to do what they say they're going to do. The hammer really is supposed to hit the nail. And lo and fucking behold, it is hitting that nail. I digress. We are entering a time of insurrection and mobocracy. We are not entering a new period. We are entering a violent period. We have always had the mobocracy of the bourgeoisie, as well as the unprecedented concentration of power in the hands of a few. It was called the monarchy. There's nothing unprecedented about this. I'm actually, I don't know if you can hear it. I am striking my desk. I'm getting so angry.
Like I came into this a little late. What's up, you guys? How's it going? I came into this a little late. Who is this? Is this some new kid or something? Some like 19, 20-year-old's gonna cut his teeth writing about politics? Like, who is this?
This is Zizek, and I am. This was supposed to be a Dry Boy episode, but since you're all here, I have the opportunity to get very angry because when I miss something or there's an additional point that I need to consider, you all are providing it, and it's just stoking the flames. The rage is real right now. This was going to be much drier and a lot more academic, but there's a passion in this. Because I have read a lot of Zizek. I've read about 3 books of his, which is, if you've ever read one book of Zizek's, is already a fucking lot.
Yeah, that's dedication right there.
Yes, I've read 3. So I've seen my man work. I've watched countless hours of his content. I've seen his discussions. I've seen his debates. I've seen his lectures. I watch his fucking dubbed content in German. I'm a man who likes Zizek. This is embarrassing. This is a guy who's starting to forget. I wish Grandpa would stop. Is the theme of tonight.
This thing you've been reading, you're saying this is Slavoj Zizek. That's what you're saying.
Slavoj Zizek, yes.
Well, that's fucking strange.
Yeah. This is why it is crucial. Zizek continues. This is why it is crucial not to just dismiss the state as an instrument of domination. In natural disasters, public health catastrophes, and periods of social unrest, progressive forces must try and seize state power and use it. True. Not only to calm people's fears in times of emergency, but also to fight those fears. Racist, xenophobia, sexist, anti-progressive fears, and so on, as Zizek would say, artificially concocted to keep populations in check. Okay, fair. That's fair. So his use of the term law and order is closer to what we would utilize as the term law and order. However, he still also is holding on to the liberal definition. Okay? Because he continues, the left shouldn't be afraid to add to its task ensuring the safety of ordinary people. There are clear signs of growing decay of manners, youthful gangs terrorizing public spaces. All right, Grandpa, settle down. From stations to shopping malls. Mentioning this decay is often dismissed as reactionary, with the insistence that we must look at the deeper social roots of the phenomena, such as unemployment and institutional racism. How is it wrong? How's it wrong, Zizek? Where's the lie? Where is the lie? If you want the gang members to be off the streets, if you believe there are these roving bands of 20-year-olds, as they did in 1990, as they did in 2000, 1980, 1970, 1960, 1950, 1940, 1930, 1920, these magical gangs of youths that are just monsters and super predators running the fuck around. If you're not addressing the things that give them the time and the need to run around doing crimes instead of doing work.
It's weird that they looked around at the options. It's weird that they looked around at the options that were available to them, and they chose crime. That's really weird.
They chose the thing that comes with the risk of incarceration, but has the upside of food, instead of the insecurity that they were facing. It's weird. It's fucking amazing. Where's the lie? If that's all true, keep in mind, I don't always think...
This is like a Zizek boomer moment, right? Because it's like, this is him going like, I don't know why all these uneducated people don't think.
Close. It's close. It's disturbingly close. Unhappily close, if one would. It's unhappily close for my tastes. I think I've expressed my... Zizek? He was a member of the Communist Party in the 1980s, if that gives you any indication of his age. He's about 70.
Oh my God, this is going to happen to us, isn't it?
Uh-huh. And by the way, when it does, it's all right.
No.
Take the mic away from me. It's okay. Dan can retire. Remember, Dan is the iconoclast of the left, not as the boomer. Remember my good points. Shut me up before I turn into a Chomsky or a Zizek, please. So, he says... Fat
Elvis.
Yeah, before I turn into Fat Elvis rock. If the left disregards public safety, Zizek posits again, it is conceding to the enemy an important domain of dissatisfaction that, in a time of anarchy, pushes people to the right. Everyday insecurity hurts the poor much more than the rich who live calmly in their gated communities. Part of the purpose of the terror. I want you to tell me right now. Any of you tell me right now, how does destroying Notre Dame, how does burning the seat of Catholic power in France, how does that hurt the poor? What does that living relic of former, Catholic authority, what does that do to the poor? How does that wound them? Somebody tell me. Anybody?
I mean, it was a national symbol of France. There isn't a doubt about that.
It might wound their national pride. Yeah.
National pride. That's the
But
best we can come up with.
materially, yeah, no, not much. Just yeah,
Well, hold on.
materially, maybe jobs were something.
Well,
Um,
historically, like churches were places of refuge for the poor and the sick and the needy. So like people could walk up to Notre Dame and like get what they needed, right? Or at least
No,
point it in
you
the right direction.
No, no. Nowadays, it was because I went there the year before it was on fire. It's
yeah, I
mostly a
started it.
museum now. It's effectively what it was, but
It's a tourist trap.
sure.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not wrong, right? It is basically more or less like one can argue the degree to which it is a tourist trap, but
To
it's a
the
tourist
degree that
trap.
all museums, to the degree that all museums are tourist traps, yes.
Okay, so I'm not saying anything that am I being
Like the
outlandish in my
Paris
assessment?
version of the Winchester Mansion.
Sorta, yeah.
Sure.
It's a fair assessment.
All right, this is a stretch, but like, I mean, I guess you could say that if you're a guy that like used to have a little thing in front of the cathedral where he sold like, I don't know, snow globes with Notre Dame in it or something, maybe it hurt him, but
There's a lot of those.
he could just go up the street and sell Eiffel Tower shit, right? Like
Yeah.
who cares? He could go sell Arc de Triomphe shit, right?
Arc de Triomphe.
There's a lot of things along the canals there, but yeah, I mean that's a limited number of people. Ultimately, I wouldn't say it's more than 100 or 200 people.
So what happened? It was the roof caught fire.
Yeah, so the oil rags up there caught fire where the French workers were smoking on their 9th smoke break of the hour.
Mandatory smoke break. It's France.
Listen, everybody, you know why everybody's mad about that joke? Because they got good stewards. They got good union stewards. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
I wish I was half as good of a steward as a French union steward.
No.
I do my best, but realistically, I don't hold a candle to Stalin or those guys. But you know what? I'm also not pretending I do. That's the other part of that. That's the good old Dan Cohen flip. So now I want to kind of take a stab at this notion of law and order, because in that assessment, I actually 100% agree. Law and order should be a leftist proposition. And that sounds like record scratch, what the fuck, right? Because we're so used to being the out group of power in the West. Because precisely the Nazi fucking takeover of the West after the war, right? The willing acceptance by the global powers to let Nazis in and reproduce their ideology. That has been heavily encouraged post-war. We don't understand what it is like to govern in a real sense. We have an abstract idea thanks to civics, but that is still only a bourgeoisie government. It is a bourgeois government. It is not our governance. It is not our ethics. It is not our law. We would just be tweaking their machinery. So in our abstracted understanding of the situation, we have this notion against law and order, which is ridiculous. It's ridiculous on two fronts. The communist front is obvious. The dictatorship of the proletariat is meant to replace the dictatorship of anybody. Anybody want to fill in where that's going? The dictatorship of the goddamn dictators we call CEOs, business owners, the bourgeoisie. That's what we're supposed to do. We are supposed to instill public order. We are supposed to instill our own set of legal values and laws to replace theirs, to organize society around our interest and principles. That's basic bitch Marxism. If that is fucking disturbing to any communists or Marxists out there, I got bad fucking news, my friend. You actually do need to read theory. I don't normally assign homework. But you're going to need to figure that out. You're going to need to figure out that Marx intended for you to have power. A couple of guys in history did it. Good on them. No disrespect to the goats. Now, the flip side of that is you could say the anarchists don't. Bull fucking shit, the anarchists don't. Have you ever tried to trade magic cards? Have you ever There are unspoken laws and rules. There are taboos that mustn't be violated. Those taboos are effectively, in a very real sense, that is an installation of law and order over an anarchic situation. So don't play no bullshit that anarchists don't have law and order. And how do they solve their problems when they cannot negotiate their way out of them? Mob violence.
I'm going to go with a gun. Damn it, I was close.
You are in the right direction. It is mob violence. We saw it in the Chaz, which, by the by, I want to point this out because everybody loves to fucking throw down with, oh, look at fucking Mel. Look at what has the CPUSA done but struggle session its own and make them feel bad? What did the anarchists do for 5 minutes in the Chaz? They took the time to make sure they got the fucking cops out, they got the means of state control out, and they shot their own black people. They did the lib thing. The first thing they did was like, we can do a liberalism more efficiently and faster. Look, it took us 10 minutes to shoot our first black guy. That poor kid who died in the Chaz that nobody talks about.
Well, they were just trying to legitimize their government.
They were just trying to legitimize their government.
It's not a real government unless black people have been killed unnecessorily.
That is an American fact.
I thought that was how you ranked first world governments under capitalism. Was that was the scoreboard was just dead black people. I thought that was
pretty fucking close. Pretty fucking close.
Oh, God.
That's my point there, though. The first thing they did was make sure they shot a black kid. And you know what? They fucked up. They fucked up. Would I use that one event to delegitimize the entire political project? No. So let's not pretend that when you people have power here in America right now, not the abstracted Chinese history, not abstracted Russian history, but good old fucking USA right now, you people, the fucking anarchists who always want to hold it over our heads about how you're goddamn morally superior because you never do it. Well, go fuck yourselves. Bull fucking shit.
Like, people, I don't know what they think, like, would have eventually happened either. Like, there's no way that this government was going to let that thing stay there. Like,
No.
The worst thing those cats could have done was succeeded. Like, if it was going good in there, they'd all be dead, right?
They'd have to be. You can't let that shit happen.
Right. You can let it happen if you control it. Like, if you sit on Cuba and try to, handicap everything that they do ever until they're basically like a museum exhibit you point at to say, this is what communism is. Like, right? Like, you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to exist as long as you're not succeeding. Because that's useful to them. But if you succeed, that's fucking it. If you succeed, it's time to have Elliot Abrams round up some guerrillas to march to your fucking village and chop you into little bits and pin you to your fucking... Oh, yeah. Congratulations, Elliot Abrams, on that job in the Biden administration. Good on you, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
R.I.P. Rachel Abrams. Who's food for the stargazers now, you stupid fucking bitch? All right. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, when you're wrong, I will stop you. We all know Dan's not afraid to stop somebody who's wrong, and right there. Those motherfuckers are really coming at me. I ain't got nothing to fucking bomb on the coast, and they're coming at me. Motherfuckers. That's right. I've been doing Age of Empires, too. Fucking dualistic power, baby. Dual power. Anywho. I make this point about law and order because when you have a functioning anarchist society, when you have a functioning communist society, and they have existed, we have had our wins. The victory is establishing the society and have it governed for more than an hour. So even the Chaz is a victory. And I'm not belittling that. But what I am saying is this. If you are not expecting to instill law and order, the fuck do you think you're doing? The fuck do you think you're accomplishing? What in the fuck do you think that has any value to any goddamn motherfucker? Zero fucking O. Nothing. Means nothing without a notion of law and order. Because if you don't have law and order, it means you don't have an established economy. If you don't have an established economy to produce goods and move goods around your nation state, whatever form that takes, around your territory, if nation state is a fucking trigger word for you, then you can't establish law and order. You actually have barbarism. You have violent barbarism proper at that point. If you have violent barbarism proper, you don't have the fucking means to maintain that territory. You are waiting for a warlord to fucking exist. Or you're waiting for another state power to move in on your territory. You need the notion of law and order to be able to negotiate those problems to legitimize your rule. This is a hard fucking fact of reality. We have not evolved away from it, whatever the fuck that's supposed to mean. We have not evolved away from the thing. It just is what it is. However, in the French notion right now, those protesters are dealing with the fact that the French government has permitted police murder. Those refugees who are in the lowest caste possible are expressing, shall we say, quite the dissatisfaction with the idea of the French authorizing police murder. Because those policemen are acting off of government imperatives, which are socially negotiated by more enfranchised Frenchmen. Not all of them. Some of them are like us. Some of them are left liberals who are sympathetic to some degree. Some of them are even right-wingers who have some sympathies in that direction. Few and far between, but they do exist. Always have, always will. People exist on a fucking spectrum. If you believe that, then there's no way you can't believe the other. All right? You can't. But you need to be prepared to install a notion of law and order entirely to be successful in your fucking political project. And to forget that is goddamn irresponsible. To a degree that is an absurdity on its face. You have to be prepared to instill law and order, and you do that through negotiations of how violence can be successfully applied. In the French case, those individuals who are acting out, if you want to call it that, who are expressing their dissatisfaction, the condemnable part, or the part that needs to be fixed, is the fact that they are not doing it in the service of a state project, as Zizek also points out. He's not wrong in that. It is that lack of a political project that is egregious and offensive. It is not in any way they applying their labor to the collective project of fucking punishing France for being a racist shithole. Which it absolutely is a racist shithole. Now, with all that said, anybody else have any thoughts?
It is fucked up and weird how good they are at racism, because they don't just do like, let's do like tired, wore out racism that everybody's heard before, right?
Yeah.
Like French author René Descartes, like Camp of the Saints, like the first and biggest and pre-Turner Diaries version of like the craziest fantasy of like being swarmed by immigrants that anybody had ever written, right? Just amazing, like amazing racism, a new racism. And then later, Camus, Albert Camus, like you know, there's some parts of Great Replacement Theory that are interesting, you know, but it is incredibly racist, and it's you know, driven by this idea that he's protecting white French people. Like, how can you have an idea that's as good and as interesting as capital eventually replacing unique individuals with replaceable identical individuals, and then somehow make it racist? Like, like the only place that shit's going to get talked about on now.
It's not Albert Camus.
Oh, okay.
Also, by the way, you want to know the dirty secret of Great Replacement Theory? Go listen to Cenk Uygur say demographics is destiny. Go listen to him say it. Great Replacement Theory is sound political theory according to a lot of motherfuckers. Go listen to him. He'll say it. He says it all the time in his show. Demographic shifts. That's Great Replacement Theory is what he's talking about. It's the same fucking theory. The idea
just saying it's amazing how good they are at it. Like, do you think that they're the most creative racists, French racists?
I mean, let me put it to you like this. We wouldn't have the Holocaust if we didn't have the Dreyfus Affair, and we wouldn't have the Dreyfus Affair if the French weren't so good at racism. So, where's the lie? Where's the lie, True?
No, that's it. That's dead on. I mean, I'm not gonna deny that.
Yeah, I mean, where's the lie? I'm being honest. Like somebody tell me, I'm not seeing it. I like to think I notice these things, and I'm not seeing no motherfucking lie in that statement, my friend. The French are just good at being bigoted. They just have a flair for it. They have a talent. They apply that talent, and lo and behold, the bigotry happens.
A certain je ne sais quoi.
A certain joie de vivre. The French joie de vivre. It's joie de vivre night for French racists.
So looking at this second to last paragraph, where he mentions mentioning this decay is often dismissed as reactionary.
Yeah.
Like it's like with the insistence that we must look at the deeper social roots. I posit the other thing, like let's look at the outcomes. What happens then? Like if we analyze what happens to the goods, to the private property, what effects that has upon the companies that try to withdraw from certain regions of Paris or France. Like, how does that affect the working class?
What does happen is a great goddamn question. What happens when capitalism withdraws? I think it's those fucking mystical gangs you keep whining about, Zizek. That you and all the other libs are so fucking, pearl clutching over. I'm pretty sure those are a result of that. That's why we don't want to focus so much on those, because it paints the individuals who've suffered the effects of capitalism and somehow worse, its withdrawal from society, as somehow the fucking perpetrators of a great crime against said society, instead of being a natural reaction. It's that idea that Donald Trump is some sort of disease, right? Donald Trump is a disease. No, he's a symptom of your fucking society. All of your problems are a symptom of your society because they exist within the context of your society. This isn't that fucking difficult to figure out. The reason that even the most disingenuous of the fucking leftists, like Jimmy Dore, can fucking pin that down to the wall is because it's basic bitch fucking thought. The only dumbasses who can't do that are pieces of shit like Tim Pool, who are professionally stupid. Who professionally couldn't fathom that if they wanted to, which they don't.
What an awesome characterization.
What? Professionally stupid?
Yes.
They are. They're professionally dumb. They're paid to be stupid.
It's very apt. It is incredibly apt.
Dan, it is funny because it's true. Well, that's an old saying.
Exactly.
My observation is not all that radical there either. That's an old talking point, but it's right. It's weird. It's weird it keeps being right.
It's weird that there are so many professionally stupid people.
Yes, like just dog-brained babies. All of them, the whole lot of them, just fucking stupid for profit. Look at Jordan Peterson. You think that guy, like, by rights, what about Jordan Peterson's character should be that stupid? And yet, the evidence is in front of your face. That man is dumber than dog shit. He's a fucking dullard. There's nothing about him that would indicate he should be a dullard by rights. He's properly educated. He's articulate, in a sense, as much as he can.
He is a type of articulate.
He is a type of articulate in that he can formulate thoughts and words into sentences.
And he can say those sentences, and other people can hear the words.
Yeah, his syntax is, it exists. So there's that.
Yes, there is that. He applies words in their nominally appropriate nomenclature. How fancy do you want me to go with to express the fact that he speaks English? Above a 5th grade level.
He's so well spoken.
He is so well spoken. It's amazing how well spoken he is. You'd think, given his upbringing, he would just basically be a donkey brain. If anybody knows that reference, good on you.
Yeah, I feel like this is a miss. This is a miss from Zizek.
Pretty big
I
miss.
know you will feel that, but like just parsing over it, it feels like a miss because it feels like it's lacking. No, it lacks the other part. Usually Zizek has this flair where he does a switcheroo on you, where he like turns the situation around. Like he would have insisted on looking at
Wait,
the effects of doing this type of this decay, on capital,
so
and how that like it retro elements into greater disarray.
Yeah.
so did somebody get to him?
No, he's old.
Is this his cry for help? Like, if I ever write these words,
Yeah,
like I'm
right now
being held hostage,
let me
like,
read the first letter of every paragraph, just to check real quick.
right? I mean, well, because I'm trying to come up with a plausible explanation for. I mean, I know there's only so far you can polish a turd, but that's, could that be his deal?
No, he's just old.
Yeah,
I mean, don't
if you check
overthink it.
the last five letters, the last five first letters, it says Batty.
Yeah. It's sad.
What
He's
does
just
this
getting old.
mean?
Eat. Thank you.
Batty. What does this mean?
What could this possibly mean, Zizek? It means he's old. It sucks. But he's just turning into an old man, and he's just yelling at clouds now, and it's like, oh my god, stop, stop, stop! Stop's not coming. I can yell it all I want, but the stop isn't going to come. Just like the girls when I went to that gay bar, the girls never came. The stop's not coming. That's also not true. Obviously, there's a ton of women at that gay bar. It's like all gay bars are. It's just women. You're like, isn't this for gay dudes? And they're like, shut up. Always present. But yeah, that's the old man's not wrong. Law and order should be one of our precepts because we should be trying to instill what class? Proletarian order. Excellent job, everybody. You get an A. We should not be holding up the mantle of the left liberals' law and order notion precisely because they will throw us under the fucking bus to these people at any moment. We should be demanding our institution of law and order. We should act revolutionarily, which he does, of course, say, but he says it in that fucking patronizing way that it's just like, come the fuck on, dog. Come the fuck on. And that's what I think a lot of people are getting fucking mad at him about. Not the other shit. That part there, for some reason, just waddling right on past. They're like, oh, he's calling for law and order. Yeah, no shit. Because how do you run a fucking country without law and order? Sunshine and smiles? I gotta tell you, shit don't work. You need law and order. However, gosh, no shit, buddy. No shit we don't want people getting murdered in the fucking streets for capitalism. No fucking doubt. It's amazing you arrived at such a stellar and difficult conclusion. But guess the fuck what? People are going to have to be made uncomfortable to unpack them from their fucking situation. To pull them out of like, oh, they just need to fucking deal with it. And they don't deserve to fucking deal with it. They really don't. Those people do not do that. And they go, well, they're not fundamentally French. What do I give a fuck about the fundamental French character?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Which part? Smoking or killing Jews? Which part am I supposed to be fucking upset about that the French are losing? What part of the fucking French experience am I fucking supposed to be butthurt about? On behalf of the French. Fuck them. Fuck them. Fuck France. Fuck America. Fuck nation states. Fuck them all. Hail to China. Fuck the entire geopolitical notion of a nation state. Fuck these fundamental characters that are anti-proletarian. Every fucking time without fail. Fuck all of that shit. I don't need it. I have no overwhelming, compelling need to fucking defend that character. I don't give a shit about Western society. I got bad news. Look at what it's done with the place. Yeah, TVs are great, but everything else can fucking go. I'm not gonna be fucking crying over that. And ultimately, on those points, this is why that article is a fail, in my opinion. And I think for the most part, everybody concurs this is why that article is in fact a fail.
Yeah.
Anybody have anything
bad
else they
take.
want to add on that? Yeah, it's not an ideal take, Grandpa. Not your best.
The TVs are pretty nice, though.
TVs are pretty nice, though.
But other than that, totally agreed.
Yeah, what utility does what utility does the West have for me? Gave you marks. Yeah, well, it also overthrew communism. Didn't need that. Had no compelling need towards that outcome, so fuck you too. All right, if everybody's good, then next week we have been requested to cover a topic which I will have to research and find out what the fuck it even is, which is always a fun time. Yeah, it's a wild one. I'm not entirely sure what to make of the request other than it was asked of us by a reliable person, so I'm gonna honor it.
Okay.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be funny if I crunched the numbers on that and it just turns out I was like, oh shit, this really is junk? That would be a fucking mind trip. But let's face it, I'm bad at math. That's probably not going to happen. Although now I'm going to try it. You know why? Because I'm fucking spiteful. I'm a spiteful human being. Dan Spiteful Ass Cohen.
The most famous name.
He named himself Spiteful Ass, mind you. That was his designation, not ours.
Mm.
All right. I'm Dan. I was joined tonight by Ripasato. I was joined by Juniper
Hey.
Nest. I was joined by Jank Engels. And I was joined by The True Horror.
Yay.
Huzzah.
Good day, America.
Love you all. Don't die.
Don't
I have never
die.
been in France.
Bye.
Good luck, French